all the people involved to get things rolling.
Well, if we're
Uh,
just spreading the message and sharing what we're doing within the DAO in different aspects, different pockets, guilds and projects and whatnot, and then you can kind of think about what we can do as similar to what a lot of the Writers Guild and then other guilds are doing with their newsletter. They're just putting out information about what it is they're doing within their guild, and then just the Bankless DAO newsletter in general. If we want to pursue the opportunity, kind of what we touched on here, to produce video content that explains that for guilds and projects and things like that, we would have a lot of opportunity and a lot of content and ideas to draw from if we're just putting that information into audio video form, which kind of expands out what we're talking about with the podcasts that just kind of have half the work done because a lot of that audio is already there, right?
So I guess my sounds like we're all have great ideas and we're all on board with doing this. The part that we have to get to is leading the horse to water. So what does this look like? It seems like we have a lot of people jumping in saying, I want to do things, I want to contribute. So we have to be able to put these things up and say, hey, go look here, create this from what you see here. Like it seems like we really need to like create these bounties. We need to say this is what we want from here. Because we're not having a lot of luck with just telling people, hey, just do something, like we I mean, that's my opinion. I've told Liquidity at this. That's why the new contributor bounty is not working, because the biggest lift there is you're asking people to be creative. And a lot of people just want to be told like, hey, I need you to do this for me, and then they can do it. But to like have to think from the ground up, what do I want to do, is a lot harder.
Yes.
Well, then we start with some of what we talked today about, or we are talking about, and then we identify other opportunities. Then we create bounties around that, and we be strict slash mindful about what kind of output we're looking for, and then like a minimum quality level or an ideal quality level, and we put it out there and we see what happens. And then we make adjustments as we go. And my mic is on.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. No, I like it. So then it's kind of okay, so like it's kind of on some people to take the initiative to set these proposals up then, and I'm definitely going to do that. I brought a lot of this up with like Humpty and Brandon, and obviously with Make and Bank, but there's other representatives here that could also step up and say what they want. But yeah, so like and then like, Elemental with Writers Guild, if you have some things that you think would be worth pursuing, then I guess we can just kind of take it upon ourselves to start writing up some ideas, but we really need to set like what do we think the budget is for these things? And should it be almost treated similarly as the new contributor bounty until we get a clearer vision? And then once we have a clearer vision of what we want, we can like start to say, well, we need more budget attached to this because we want something that's bigger than that.
Yeah. I guess what I was thinking by bringing up the newsletter content from Writers Guild is for people to maybe tap into their creativity a bit and look at some of these and see like, oh wow, I like this article, but this article would have been way more effective if it had an active visual like this in it. And you don't have to do it, but kind of sketch out that, and then have that sort of idea in your head as far as helping everyone understand what you and the AV Guild could do. So because I think part of the difficulty is one of imagination with people as they're producing this content. They're looking at it and they're looking at it through the lens of I need to write this, and I'm thinking of it as a static page that is about this length, and it has links. But to have their eyes open to the possibility of it could be that, but it could be a shorter thing, and then in the middle of it, it has an animated demo that shows what you spent 3 paragraphs talking about, and to just sort of give them that idea, whether it's just in an outline or a storyboard or just a kind of a basic pitch to help people understand how we could collaborate with them to produce some different types of content.
No, I agree. I guess what I'm saying is that we need an asynchronous way for people to be able to get that idea. And to want to, I mean, and that's something, I mean, this is even, I keep bringing up the new contributor bounty because this is even something that we can just tell people like, hey, you could do this. Like, like just go find a newsletter and make a video about it. The other thing too, though, with that is there a way to get the old newsletters if you're not already subscribed? How do you find that content?
Pretty much the site I just put pretty much has them all categorized in a thing. So, but otherwise they're on Medium under the Bankless DAO Medium page. That's where you would go. But I agree. They are a little hard to navigate too if you don't have the links.
Yeah, so I was just thinking all we need to really do is just set up like a loose bounty that says, hey, find a newsletter that you would like to make a video about. Here's X amount of bank,
Yeah.
And then I guess we have to set some criteria for quality. And I guess the amount of, see, that's where it gets tricky is because then like, how many edits do you get out of that? But we got to start somewhere. I mean, we're not going to do anything if we don't get started. So.
Yep. Could do an article summary. Could do, what would be considered maybe an ad for one of the articles. I don't know. Anything like that could be a worthwhile new joiner bounty exercise, particularly if it's good enough that warrants putting on the YouTube and then creates some of this cross-pollination of content throughout the DAO.
Yeah, and that's really the end goal here is to get people working and to get content on the YouTube. So that is kind of like we need to have some standards. At least we need to have some idea of the assets that they should be using to start and finish the video, regardless of what they do in the middle. Yeah. Somebody was trying to talk there, though. I don't know who it was.
I sniffled.
I don't know. All right. So what are the next steps on this?
Well, like for the podcast stuff for Making Banks, it's already have the transcripts and stuff. I can let people into my workspace. I have to be careful about what type of access, just because of the subscription fees jump every time you add somebody that's a contributor. But I believe I can give view access, so people that want to work on it, they want to read through it or listen through it or whatever, and find a section that sounds really compelling or whatever that they want to turn into something. I mean, we could, that's one approach.
Let's talk through that a little bit offline.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous about giving too much access to that because you can stomp all over the project very easily, which once it's published is fine, but work in progress can get messed up pretty bad.
Yeah, we can talk more at the Make and Bank meeting about that. I
Okay.
think Chris kind of had the idea too about like, if the podcasts know what they want, it makes it a little easier. But I do like the idea of leaving it a little open ended and letting people get creative. We just have to create the form in which people feel like they can, I guess until it looks like a real bounty or something, people just don't jump in. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know
Well,
what it is.
why don't we leave it open for a week or so, and I'll jump in and see if others jump in as well. Let's just make something out of one of the podcasts, and then you guys can comment on it and see if this is something that's worth pushing forward as a bounty.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. We can figure that out at the Make and Bank meeting. We can just like put out an like, here, take this episode and make something and see how it goes. And same thing with the newsletter thing. We can maybe just put up a few different bounties soon and just like have one for newsletter, go find a newsletter, make a video for it. Here's an episode of Make and Bank, make a video for it. I can catch up with Humpty and Brandon and see kind of how they want to go with this. But this is a good way to just get it started and see what happens.
I've been seeing a lot of D-work across the DAO lately. Should we set up a D-work board for bounties?
We are working on it with Hatchery, and I just don't want to like start setting it up everywhere until we actually figure out what we're doing, because that will be eventually kind of the direction it goes. I think the problem is we're still trying to work out the pricing, so that's kind of the other big next step is figuring out how much bank we're going to allocate to these side projects, and after that, I guess we can start getting some stuff up. But D work will probably be the way to go in the future once we know what we're doing.
Hey, Anthony, do you think we're ready to start reaching out to sponsors yet? Or do you think we should have more content on the YouTube first? What's your opinion?
I guess it depends what kind of sponsors they are and like what we're
Kind of need to see how many views we're getting on a regular.
We can't reach out to anybody with a YouTube channel that has less than 500 subs.
Exactly.
right. Well, that's what I wasn't really thinking as much for the YouTube. That's why I was saying it depends, because for the podcast, we are in a little better of a situation, and there is a little bit of overlap depending on who that sponsor is and what show it is and that kind of stuff. So it's really like, yeah. But we definitely, I think that they're right that we do need to definitely get more content going first. But we want to keep the conversations open. We don't necessarily have to accept anything.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking of getting GM.xyz as a sponsor. Liquidity mentioned that we should explore using them more so in our AMA special ops. So that inspired me to check out GM. I heard of GMXYZ, but that inspired me to at least check it out and see what's going on over there. I think they would be a good sponsorship for us because they need adoption, So I think that would be a good partnership, personally. And we talk about Web3 all the time, but we're not really utilizing Web3 social platforms. So I'm thinking that can be a good niche for us to like reach out to sponsor us. Projects like GM.xyz, possibly LivePair, which is like a alternative to Twitch. So what are your thoughts on reaching out to Web3 social projects to sponsor us?
I mean, I think it makes sense, not so much as like sponsors, as much as what can we do for each other, because we are not doing enough in Web3, social platforms. And so I think building those relationships could be good for, AV Guild and the Hatchery. So, but maybe not as much for sponsorship so much as what can we do for each other kind of thing. It doesn't need to be like, yeah, because a lot of them might not even be in a much better position to sponsor than we are.
Yeah. All right, but I'll make
So,
some. Start doing. I'm gonna start reaching out to those projects.
yeah, because the other part too is kind of like even with relationships, it could just be, creating content for them or doing one-off projects together and things like that. So any kind of relationships we can form that would be mutually beneficial.
Okay, cool. And do you feel the same way about DAO tooling projects? I have more connections in that space. I haven't really made too many connections in the Web3 social space, but definitely with DAO tools, yeah.
I mean, we've talked a lot about this in the past with like trying to do projects for outside guilds and stuff, and I think we definitely need to do it. We've just always run up against the same problems we are now with like, how do you pay people, and what do what's fair, and how many drafts do you get, and how do you tell people what you want without knowing what they're capable of. So I definitely want to pursue those things, but we just need to get more testing and more like content created to know what people are capable of doing. Because I would hate to have someone say, "Oh yeah, AV Guild, create some content for us," and then like nobody wants to or nobody is capable of doing it. Yeah, so I think that's really what I'm trying to do now with those ideas I brought up about the YouTube is like people say they want to do things, so we need to give them the form that says, "Hey, here is something you can do," and see what happens. Because then from there, like, once we start knowing who actually really wants to do things, and we know who can do things, then we can do whatever, So,
And then
yep.
y'all could experiment with some of the episodes that I have on Crypto Sapiens on my new segment on exchange points. Like if you wanted to make shorts out of those, it haven't been like redistributed on any of the Crypto Sapiens platforms just yet, but you can listen back to the recording on the Crypto Sapiens Twitter, and like we could like just for experimentation, we could chop some of those episodes up. I'm cool with that.
Same with
Okay, cool.
Same with diversity if y'all want to. So those are up there as well.
And with those, they were just done on Twitter Spaces, so they're not done. They weren't done on YouTube or OBS or anything. There's no
just
video.
Twitter Spaces.
Yeah, just Twitter Spaces for now.
Yeah. Okay.
If you want, I can work up some animations.
Well, because I think they definitely would be cool with animations or just other visuals to play against, as opposed to just a static screen listening to it on YouTube. But it's an opportunity there for sure to do some shorts that play into a more of an animated promo for the overall podcast. I think it's pretty great in those spaces.
Yeah, this is exactly, I guess, what I'm talking about. And so I'm guessing like the reason we need to figure out quickly what we want to attach to these bounties is because I think anybody should be able to throw a bounty out there that says, "Hey, here's episode 2 of Diversity. Go create a video. Here's the bounty." You know what I mean? Like, I guess the other part of it too is not just know how do you decide, like, are we running these like contests and just letting everybody take a whack at it, or are we gonna like, early on, someone decide? And that's why I think everybody kind of needs to own their bounty to some degree, because you need to be the final cut. I can't decide what an episode of Diversity should look like. You know what I mean? So that's kind of why I'm open to this conversation, is because we all know what's going on throughout the DAO and we all are involved in things. So I think getting this content created takes all of us to say what we want to get created.
Yeah, I guess that was sort of my hope when the new joiner bounty was proposed, was to be able to identify the skill, the various skill toolboxes of people to know who to competently put on a bounty.
Yeah. No, I agree. I guess I'm just taking it one step further to be like, obviously people are having trouble deciding what they want to create. So I think if we say, hey, these are things we need, and then, we keep talking about the new contributor bounty. So maybe that needs to be the starting price to get these things going. And this is almost an extension of that program.
Well, I guess from the people listening here, who, are these ideas that are resonating with you, or are you nodding your head going, I'd love to dive into this? Or are you thinking, that's neat, I'd be interested to see how that turns out?
That's the vibe I'm getting. Number 2. I'm getting a lot of number 2 there.
Because
that's cool, but I'm not doing it, kind of thing. That's what I'm hearing. Because all the silence. Come on, talk to us, people.
I'd like to try it and just see if you guys like it or not. And if you guys like it and it's the right sort of content, then I'll do more. And I'm sure I can get other people to do the same, but we've got to get some examples up, I guess.
Yeah, and I should be able to step in and be able to contribute as well as soon as I quit my day job, so I'll have more free time. I'm just getting caught up now. But I also wanted to defer and let new people do it first, so that's kind of why I didn't just.
Right.
I want to clear the path for anybody new to come do it first, and then if we're kind of up against the wall, then sure, I'll step in. Which
is the same reason that it took me and Cisco coming in the last minute to make the POAPs. So yeah, rushed POAPs. Do apologize.
Well, John, I'd say just dive in, and just like Chris is doing, dive in and try one if you have some time, to give people some examples. I think are some of the big benefits there to get people's mind working. I could do that, and because there might be some head scratching right now.
Yeah, a lot of people maybe feel intimidated if they're new, like it has to be some kind of like Hollywood production quality.
Well, yeah, and it's not a one and done either. Yeah. So you can get feedback and get some
exactly
learn how to do it better and better, because there's a lot of people with a lot of talent here that are happy to provide feedback, and
yeah.
If you're prepared to know that it's not just turning in your assignment, seeing what grade you get, it's
hey, let's make this awesome,
and then getting feedback and iterating on it to get to a better and better product.
And along those lines, with anybody that is doing bounties, if they run into a roadblock or some ambiguity in it that makes it harder for it, or whatever, where it's impacting their ability to complete the project, I think that's also an opportunity to say, look, here's what worked, here's what didn't, and help us also, by the people that contribute, to help us improve our bounty process. And what would have been helpful to know up front, or assets that were needed up front that we didn't realize at the time. I think that's one of those iterative things too, that you don't know what you don't know until you need it, and then you know you need it and you wish you had it before. And so if we can start figuring that out as people start working on bounties, and say, hey, you didn't give me enough information, or I need these 3 other things before I can even begin to think about it. Yeah. At least that's where I've gotten when I started working on some of these new things. I'm like, okay, I got to figure out my process. These are these holes where I need more information, or I need to learn something, or I need somebody else to help me. I'll just call out LaQuay here for a second. You just saved my life the other day on getting out an episode of a podcast, because my audio was horrible. And he caught some things and showed me how to fix it. And man, that was just, it was a godsend. And that's the kind of stuff that really helps me personally.
You're welcome. I also I want to.
I was waiting for it, and that's what we got.
From the talent coordinator perspective, I just also want to, I don't know, point out, but also echo what Chris had said. The sentiment of I'll just make something and put it out there. Like when I meet with people in the one-to-ones and talk to them, I always say, like, you don't need permission to create something. Like, you can create whatever you want. You might need consensus to get remuneration, but if you have an idea and you want to make something, just make it and put it out there. Like, people aren't going to know. I mean, you could sit around and wait for bounties, and that's fine. But you say you want to get involved and you say you want to contribute, and if that's the case and you're comfortable with it, just make something and put it out there. I mean, the new contributor bounty is a very established path for you to earn bank if that's what you're interested in. But you don't need permission to make something. And often when you make something and put it out there, it gives people ideas, and then something else spawns off that. Or somebody sees that and they say, you know, I want you to do this thing with me. And nobody's going to know that until
they start seeing your work.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
if you don't want to wait around for a bounty and you want to be proactive, I know nobody wants to work for free, but don't think of it necessarily as working for free. Think of it as you are putting